So this is my first in-studio podcast. I'm interviewing Pat Fergusson. I've known Pat for my entire life. I don't even know a time where Pat wasn't in my life. So I'm excited to interview Pat, and I'm already tearing up because she's a huge part of my journey, and she was a huge part of my healing. So Pat, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and how you know my family?
Yeah, you have me tearing up already too. I met I guess it started with your grandparents through my now ex-husband, who your grandfather and him grew up together and in the same small town. And then as a result, your mom came into the picture, obviously, when they started dating, and or not your mom, sorry, your grandmother.
Yep.
Came into the picture when they were teenagers, and then that your grandparents got married. And that's, I met them, when your mom, Sherry, was probably about 5 years old, maybe a little older than that. And Candy, your aunt, was a baby. So yeah, Sherry would have been a little bit older because I think they're about 8 years apart.
Yeah.
So Candy would have been a baby.
Yep.
And so we were friends socially, and I basically watched your mom grow up from a little girl, probably even babysat her because I'm about 12 years older than your mom. Mm-hmm. And then when your mom was a teenager, as you know, she got pregnant with you, and I was having my kids at the same time, even though I was 12 years older. So when I was almost 30, having my third child, Josh, you and Josh are basically the same age. Your mom had you, and so your mom and I became fast friends because we were
pregnant together.
And raising our kids together, and our kids all became friends, and
we were like, something I wanted to ask, and I'm going to ask is, how was life like growing up for us? What did you see while I was growing up? What was life like? What did you see? Like, I mean, what was life like to you?
Honestly,
in my home.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, it was hectic, just the same as my household was.
Yeah.
It didn't seem abnormal to me because my house was crazy too. I had 5 little kids. Your mom had 4. Yeah. So it seemed similar, to be honest. And we all got along. We had similar beliefs and raised our kids, I thought, similarly.
Yeah. So you were never, like, there was never really anything that stood out to you?
Absolutely not.
No, I know. It's a deep one for me. Yeah. So they had you pretty fooled.
Yeah, for sure.
And like, in what ways did Brian, like, groom you into believing that he wasn't this type of person?
I guess the same way so many abusers do, because they just want people to like them, obviously, and trust them. And so he was always happy and fun, always playing with my kids and joking around with them. He had a great sense of humor, and always willing to help. I mean, he was just an all-around nice guy. I can't explain it any better than that, other than you couldn't help but like him.
Yeah, no, I get it. And that's hard because I missed that part of him.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even really who he is.
No. And, I've come to realize now that that's a common trait with a lot of child abusers, for sure.
Yeah, oh, me too, for sure. It's so common.
Because they need people to trust them.
So when did it come to light that I was abused, and how did that happen?
So that was, you know the year. I can't remember.
It was 2009.
2009, yeah.
Like how did you find out?
Well, it took me aback, that's for sure. I think your mom, Sherry, called me. And to be honest, we hadn't been close for the prior years, just before that. I mean, we kept in touch, but we weren't overly close because, as you know, I had got divorced and remarried. And of course, the kids were all grown up, so we weren't seeing each other socially as much. Our social life together as families seemed to center around the kids a lot. And so everyone was grown up and sort of doing our own thing. And anyway, your mom called me, I think. She called me and said, did I hear what was going on with Tiffany? And I'm like, no, because I probably hadn't talked to you for a long time.
Oh.
I said, what's happening? And she said, oh, Tiffany's accused Brian of sexually abusing her when she was young. And, you know, maybe gave a few details, but not much. And I was so taken aback. I was like, what? Why would she do such a thing? Oh, and I think she went on to say that you were on drugs and you were basically crazy. Yeah. Because you were a drug addict and you were all these things.
Yeah, it was basic. She still does.
Yeah, to try and justify why you would come out with such a crazy story. And I was like, again, hadn't seen you for a long time, years.
Absolutely.
I thought maybe you had gone down that road. I didn't know.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, why would Tiffany do that? And I got mad at you.
I know.
Listening to her story. I was like, what? And so she's like, I think she said to me, so if you hear anything from her, it's not true or whatever. I don't know. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But that was the gist of the conversation. And so I had a couple of my kids were living at home still then as adults. And I went in down the hall to the bedroom and I said, you'll never guess what just happened. I got a phone call from Sherry and you'll never guess what Tiffany's done. And they're like, what? And I told them and they got mad. Like they were mad at me.
Yeah, of
like,
course.
why would she do such a thing? And I probably called my other kids and told them. Mm-hmm. And so we were like all wondering why you would do such a thing and thinking you were on drugs and crazy, basically. Yeah. Because we had no reason I had no reason not to believe your mom or to believe such a horrible thing about Brian.
Yeah, because we
loved Brian, to be honest.
Yeah, and absolutely.
And loved your mom too, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, they had never done anything wrong to me.
Yeah.
Or my kids. They'd always been good to us, right? So
I remember you came to my work after that.
So I was going to get to that.
Yeah, that's it.
So it was probably, I don't know, I think you sent me an email.
I think I did, yeah.
You did, I think, and asked me if I had heard from your mom or something right away. You figured your mom would have reached out to me.
Yeah, I knew she would have.
And I meant to look back at the email, but I don't know if I have it anymore. But you said my mom's probably going to contact you to tell you what I came out with, my story. And of course, I'm like, she already did. She called me already. I think I responded to you.
Yeah, I think you did. And actually, no, Pat, what I kind of remember is you just showing up at my work and seeing me.
Okay. Well, I knew.
Okay. But I
might not have responded.
But
to your email, but within the next day or two.
Yeah, it wasn't long after I seen you.
We were living just outside of Barrie at the time, and I knew you worked at the hair place in the mall. Yeah. In the Georgia Mall, and I was going to Barrie for something the next day, and
I'll never forget it.
I thought to myself, and it wasn't planned. I was going to Barrie to do something, and I thought to myself, I'm going to be in Barrie. I'm just going to stop by the mall and see if Tiffany's at work, because I knew that if I saw you and could see you and talk to you, that I'd know.
It didn't even take you a second.
No.
You just hugged me.
I don't know what possessed me, but I knew that if I could see you in person and talk to you, that I'd get some kind of clarity. I'd be able to tell.
Yeah.
And so that's exactly what I did. I went to the Georgia Mall. I had no idea if you were working or not. And
I remember.
I asked the girl at the front reception desk if Tiffany was working today. And she said, yeah, she is. Went and got you, and you came out to the mall, and I think we hugged. And it was we both started crying, I think. And
it was the first time I felt. I think I mean, Pat has a story of her own, and I'm not bugging her to share it, but
no, I'm fine.
I think for the first time in my life, somebody understood me.
Yeah.
And I remember what I was wearing. I was wearing a yellow skirt and a black top, and
wow, I can't believe you remember that.
Because I remember that you hugged me and you believed me.
Yeah.
And even though I knew that you had already believed my mom because my grandma had told me that.
Yeah.
I just knew at that moment, just you seen me and you knew I was telling the truth because you could tell by my body language.
Yeah,
and
I knew as soon as you told me.
Yeah, and I'll never forget that moment.
And I never, after that meeting with you in the mall, I never didn't believe you ever. And so it it developed from there.
Yeah, and it did. And that's another thing I wanted to get into is, Brian had multiple victims. So I don't know if you're willing to share a little bit on how you found out about your daughter and how all that came to light for you as well, and that situation.
Yeah, so all of this unfolding, if you will, of the rest of the story, the whole story and the rest of it took place over a period of a few days.
Yeah.
And so I went home that day after I'd talked to you, and I think you had already been to the police at that point.
Yeah.
And it struck me suddenly that he probably had other victims, and that my daughter, Lindsay, had spent so much time, you and Lindsay were good friends growing up, that she had spent so much time at your house and with your family that it really began to scare me to think that maybe she was a victim too.
Yeah.
And so she was living out of the country at the time. And I talked to your grandmother, and I said, I cannot believe that that Lindsay would have escaped this. Because I think we were finding out
we had known
all
other
the time
victims.
There were more victims.
There was daily coming new
more
ones.
people coming forward that were involved with your family.
Yeah.
And so I kept saying to your grandmother, there's no way Lindsay escaped this, because she spent so much time there.
Yeah.
And so I actually called her and confronted. Well, I guess I had talked to her about what had happened when your mom reached out to me. Because I contacted all my kids and told them the first story that I heard from your mom.
Yep. And
that you were crazy and a drug addict. And she was like, I can't even imagine what she must have thought when I made that phone call to her. Then here a couple days later, I called her back and said, I actually went to see Tiffany, and it's true. I know it's true.
Yeah.
I believe her. So now what I need to know, Lindsay, is did this ever happen to you? Yeah. Because you lived half your life there. That's an exaggeration, but you were there a lot.
She was.
And there were other victims. By this point, I think I had already known there were other girls that had come forward. Yeah. So I said to her, with the amount of time you spent there, I can't see that Brian didn't try something with you. No. She denied it. And it took, and then I think I emailed her then a couple days later. I sent her a big long email, and I said, how important it was for her, but for you too, to be believed, that she tell the truth if something had happened to her. Anyway, she kept denying it for a few days, saying no, nothing had happened. And then, I don't know, I'm going to say a week later. It wasn't long. I remember I was standing at the kitchen stove making craft dinner around supper time, and my phone rang, and I saw that it was her. And it was just an unusual thing for her to call me, especially that time of day or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I knew that there was something
right.
going on when I saw that phone call. So I answered the phone, and she was crying. And she said, I need to tell you something. And I said, what? And she said, well, I wasn't telling you the truth about Brian, that he did do things to me. And I said, oh, so you can imagine how that phone call went. We were both crying. And anyway, it wasn't, I had to put her in touch with Virginia, the police officer that had the case. Or actually, I think it was the other girl to begin with.
Yeah, she got pregnant.
Oh gosh, I can't remember. Kelly.
She got pregnant. Yeah.
The first police officer.
Yeah.
I put her in touch with Kelly, and she emailed Kelly her whole story, her statement.
Yep.
And then not long after that, she came home from the States, and she went into the police station and met with, I don't know if it was Kelly then or Virginia, because Kelly, like you said, went on maternity leave. And then they went forward with charges on her behalf as well.
So looking back, was there any signs that you missed that maybe she was being sexually abused, or just curious? Because we can hide it well. I know that. I mean, you know that.
No.
It's easily we
of
hide
all
it.
People that should have been able to read any signs, I would have thought I'd be able to, having been a victim myself. So there was a lot of guilt for me over that.
I can't imagine. I mean,
yeah,
I think it's hard for.
Honestly, never once did I ever suspect anything.
No.
Because if I had of, I wouldn't have let her go there.
No, it's not who you are. I know that.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. No.
Yeah, no, I know. And I would never have suspected it either. But I mean, I was also living in it, and also it's like you said, they're so good at it. Like Brian was really good at it, and that's a point that like
most child abusers are really good at it.
Well, yeah, I mean, and that's
because if they're creepy, people aren't going to let their kids go around them, right? In most cases, if someone's like
creepy,
creeps, you're not letting your kids go around them. So it's important for an abuser, I think, to groom not only his victims but everybody around the victims.
Absolutely.
That serves the victims up to them, right?
Yep, exactly. So. I wanted to ask about my mom. When you confronted her after, because you didn't believe me, and then when you see me, you believed me,
right?
And then when you confront, I wanted to see what it was like all about. What was that about?
So I didn't want to talk to your mom about Lindsay, my daughter, coming forward, because I thought for sure, if for whatever reason she didn't believe you because she was telling people you were a drug addict and whatever, I mean, reality, I think she always knew. Well, I think it's true out now, but at that time we didn't know. I thought maybe she, whatever.
Yeah, you thought she didn't know. I to clear that up, I never told the police about my mom's involvement.
Right.
And I never did. I never did.
So I knew that she knew that Lindsay, my daughter, had never been on drugs or, been she knew that Lindsay's word, I think she knew that Lindsay's word was believable.
Right.
From her perspective.
Yeah.
She knew Lindsay her whole life. Mm-hmm. And so
I was riding on Lindsay. I was riding on Lindsay. Yeah. I really was. I was like, she's going to believe me, or she's going to love me, or whatever, she's going to be there for me.
So when I found out, when Lindsay came forward with her story, I didn't want to just call your mom or email her and tell her, because I thought it would be like a reckoning for her to realize that, oh my God, it is true, or whatever. Right.
Right.
I just didn't think it was something that I should email or phone, whatever. So I thought for a couple of days what I should do. And so I contacted your mom and said, I guess I phoned her and said, oh, you probably want to talk. You need to talk, let's get together for lunch or something. And I knew that's when I was going to tell her that I had talked to Lindsay, because I believe I had told her and your grandmother that the first few times I talked to Lindsay denied everything.
Right.
So, your mom, that just cemented her position against you more.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
So I knew that by Lindsay coming forward now and saying she didn't tell the truth, that he had done things to her, that would probably devastate your mom, I thought.
Yeah.
Make her realize that it all is true. So anyway, we made an appointment to meet for lunch in Barrie, and she worked in Aurelia at the time, and so I said, let's meet after your shift for lunch. And so that's what we did. We went to Kelsey's on Bayfield Street and went for lunch, and it was hard to get through lunch, but I waited until after we were towards the end of our hour or so together, and I told her that Lindsay called, and that she had told me she was lying the first few times I asked her, and that Brian had done things to her. And she, her face went white. She was shocked. And I said, if you want, I'll call Lindsay right now on the phone. Again, she was out of the country, but I was able, I said, you can talk to her yourself. So I did. I was hoping that I could get hold of her, and I did phone her, and she answered the phone. And I said, I told Lindsay that I'm having lunch with Sherry, and I've told her what you told me. She hadn't gone into detail with me yet, but I said, Sherry here, I've got Lindsay on the phone. You talk to her yourself. And so I said, it was kind of, not private in the restaurant. I said, go outside, take my phone and go outside and talk. So she did. She went outside and talked on the phone, and I waited inside, and she came back a few minutes later, and she was visibly shaken, and she was crying, your mom. And she didn't know what to say, I guess. And she's like, what am I going to do? What about my kids? And, I told her, because at that time we had a house that we owned with my mom, and my mom's place was vacant because she was down in the States. And I said, my mom's place is empty. If you need to leave with the kids.
She had a way out.
Yeah. I said, take the kids and come and stay at our place as long as you need to. You don't have to work. You don't have to stay there. So I was trying to help her, like, have a way to get out. Yeah. And so.
Because she still had kids living in the house at that time.
I think they were all at home.
They were all, my siblings were all at home at that time.
Yeah.
And they were in their teens, but they were all teens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I said, she's like, I have to go home and talk to him or whatever. I mean, I don't know what she was going to do, but I said, when you get home and you've talked to him and made a decision about what you're doing, you need to call me and let me know if you want to come and stay at the house, whatever you want to do. And so we hugged, and off she went. Yeah. And so I called your grandmother, because your grandmother knew I was meeting her for lunch.
Yeah.
And she wanted to know how it went. So I called her and told her. And I said, Sherry's supposed to call me back in a little while and let me know what's happening. And I drove home, and I didn't hear anything. So after a couple hours or so, I called Sherry's phone to find out what's happening. Of course, no answer. We never spoke again from that day.
No.
But so no response. So then I called your grandmother, who, of course, as you know, lived right next door.
Yeah.
I said, Sherry's supposed to call me back. Can you find out what's happening? Because I think she said that she could see the car was there. Yeah. Both her car and Brian. She knew they were home, basically, by looking out the window. And she said, I'll go over and see what's going on. So she went over there and knocked on the door, and I think your mom answered the door and started yelling and cursing and swearing at your grandmother, saying, get out. And I think calling Lindsay a liar.
Yeah.
Lindsay's a liar. Basically,
Just attack. Just straight attack.
That was the end of it.
Yeah.
Never spoke to your mom since, and it just went forward from there. Lindsay was nothing but a liar too.
Yeah. And that same my grandmother went over a few times to my mom's house in that same week, and my grandmother did support me. Like, I'm gonna clear this up now. My grandmother supported me for 14 years. She now supports my abuser. It's called regression, and it is real. Really, it is. It's a real thing, regression. And she supported me for 14 years. And so anyways, my grandmother went over there quite a few times in that week. And what you said about Lindsay, how, you called Lindsay calling me a liar, and that Lindsay came back at you and didn't say she kept her abuse in. Right. Well, my grandmother had witnessed my mother screaming at my little sister, screaming at her, saying, did he do this to you? Did he molest you? And I mean, like, screaming and flipping and calling me a liar. Like, how is any victim to come forward when someone's immediately victim blaming someone else? So it was an interesting point, because I don't know. There's never been any proof that my sister Kayla was sexually abused by him, but there's many stories of episodes that people have thought that she has been. I know that I've like heard so many different things, but it's just interesting. And and my mom's still in denial, so she's still my sister still can't say anything. It's interesting to me. How victims, how easily silenced we are. Ooh, this has been a heavy interview, Pat. I wanted to ask you, what would you say to any mom out there, maybe like who doesn't know that that's happening, and that maybe, like how could they see the signs, or
oh boy,
how could they know?
Oh, that's really tough. I don't even know what to tell you.
Yeah. Trust is hard.
It is, other than to open up that conversation, which I didn't do.
No.
At a point in their life where they might start going out of the house to spend time with people. I mean, short of keeping them home all the time, if you that's an option too, I guess. But it's pretty hard to be around them 24/7 once they get school age, and first of all, they're in school, or they're going to a friend's house. Predators find opportunities no matter what. So I think communication is probably the best tool you have to explain to kids, which is horrible to have to do to an innocent child.
But it is a reality.
Yeah, it's a reality. And I don't think, if we had a conversation like that, it probably was pretty vague. I should have done it a lot more in depth, or more often, or something. I think too, like, it's changing, right? Like when your kids were little, it wasn't like as like couldn't talk about as much. Yeah. Like it's evolving, It is, for sure. And that is, I mean, because I know you, and I mean, you've always supported me. And Pat is somebody, like, something I also wanted to share was something. Little is somebody that, when I came forward, she's the first person who ever really did understand me, and she's the reason why I was able to, like, open up about any little bits of my abuse. She helped me talk me through that. So, like, I know for sure that that's not the type of person you were to have your kids around, this type of person. So it's interesting to me how he groomed you even. Yeah. And it's sad how he, and he preyed on vulnerable people. You had your history of sexual assault. My mom has her history of sexual assault. Mm-hmm. He just preyed on vulnerable people. Yeah. And I guess maybe they have a radar for victims that seem like they won't speak up. I don't know, because unlike me, my daughter is very quiet. Yes. Maybe he sensed that in her, that she would keep that a secret. I really don't know. Yeah. Although me being me, I hid it for years.
I know. And I'm the
My
same. I'm
abuse
like you. And
from my mother.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I hid it from everyone for so many years. For 21 years, I had hid it. And yeah, it's just, they teach us how to hide it too, right? Like, I mean, I remember times where he would like, you know, change your sheets for you because, well, there's blood on your sheets, or all the little things that, you know, that he'll teach you to how to hide it. So then eventually when you're old enough, you know, I'm just naturally hiding this, you know, like before, and I didn't even know, you know, so it's
yeah. I mean, I didn't speak up about my own abuse until I found out firsthand that my stepfather started to abuse my sister, my younger sister. Prior to that, I mean, maybe I would have never have said anything. I don't know, but because my instinct to protect her came out,
yeah,
that's when I told my mother.
And how old were you when you told your mother?
16.
Oh, wow.
16 or 17.
Yeah.
And I had ended the abuse with him.
Right.
I lost it one time, the last time it happened. So I would have been, I don't know, I'm guessing here 14, 15.
Yeah.
And I just lost my temper and basically was kicking him and everything and said, that's it. You're I
fucking
just decided
done.
this was the end.
I know.
You're not touching me again.
Yeah.
And so I guess, and he never attempted anything with me after that.
He got scared.
I just thought it went away until we were on a trip and we were in a camper. And I was sleeping on one side of the camper and my stepfather had my sister sleeping on the other end. And I still didn't even suspect anything. And then I heard it in the middle of the night.
Oof.
And she would have been, I don't know, 8 then. And I lost it. I got up in the middle of the night and freaked out on him. And anyway, it's a whole other story. We were actually in Mexico when it happened.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And we went home right away then.
I stopped the abuse too. And that's something that's a good point too, is the fact that they really don't stop. Like you like have to stop it.
Oh,
like
yeah.
there is those.
They'll never stop.
They'll never stop sexually assaulting you. It's almost like they have that control and they love it. And like I had to stop my abuse. I was 15. And I remember it was like I asked him to stop because I didn't want it to happen anymore. And he said, okay. And then there was like a whole week that went by where he was vile, just an ignorant asshole. I couldn't do anything right. And I was his like main focus, you know, like I was his world. Yeah. So it hurt me a lot. Yeah. I've lost the only thing that loved me because my mom fucking hated me. So I was so alone and I just hated him. So I was like trying to find a way out. And my aunt offered me a place to live and he kicked me out of the house, threw all of my shit on the front lawn. Like as if I didn't fucking matter anymore.
Yeah. You were done serving his purpose.
Yeah, and that fucking hurts.
Yeah.
That hurts.
I didn't have it that bad. So.
Well, I think I hate when we say that not that bad.
No, but I guess what I mean is that part.
Yeah. You finished
was as bad.
Yeah, for sure.
But he did turn against me too. Not to quite the same extent.
Yeah.
But I do remember now that you're talking about it. After I ended it, I'm going to say I was 14, somewhere between 14 and 15, and I was at the age, obviously, teenager, where you want to go out and do things with your friends and whatever. And Elmville used to have a roller skating rink. I don't know if they still have that anymore.
I don't think so.
Back when I was a teenager is when it started. And I used to love to go roller skating. And my stepfather used to say to my mom, oh, she's just going to roller skating so she can like go out and make out in the cars with guys and the parking lot and things like those sorts of things.
Yeah.
So he would accuse me of wanting to, and that was never ever the case. I assure you, I loved roller skating.
You just enjoyed it.
Yeah. And so he would always say things like that, accuse me of being a slut and a whore,
Yeah. And that I think that's a very common one too. Like when they're done with you, the abuse starts to get almost, it changes.
A different kind
it's
of
a different
abuse.
kind of abuse because Brian would start, like he started treating me like my mom as soon as the abuse was done. Like he was mean to me. He would call me fat. He would call me ugly. He would call me stupid. Like I remember when I was pregnant, him and my sister, he always had my sister gang up with me because he treated my sister like a queen. I wonder why. At that point, but he would have my sister gang up on me and say, oh, remember when I was pregnant with Quentin, he was like, you and your husband are so fucking stupid that you're going to have the smartest kid in the world. He was grooming me to abuse my kid is all I can think of now, is he was like, oh, I'll treat your kid the way I treated you. You're like gold. And my little small mind at that point thought, oh, okay, well, yeah, he's going to treat my kid like a king because he treats boys like kings in my house. Like the boys were better in my house than the girls were. You were better if you're a boy. Well, in my mom's eyes, I think that's a narcissistic mom thing. Yeah. So, wow, this has been a hard topic for me today, but I think it's been a big healing for me. I think talking about, I think the fact that, you give my mom, I don't think I realized the options my mom had to leave either, and everybody gave her a place and would have helped her, and she still chose him.
Well, how many years has it been?
14, yeah.
I'm pretty sure she could have left.
She could have, and
years, but
yeah, and that healing, and it sucks because I've for the last 14 years clouded all of my memories with drugs, and I now am opening up to the fact that there was so much more that I didn't even realize, that she was, just covering her own shit up, one thing after the next, just covering up her own shit. Because I know when she got home from that conversation with you, I'm sure Brian said to her, you were just as a part of this as me. Because that's what he told me. Because that's exact words to me. You were just as a part of this as me. So, and then she's scared because she was a 17-year-old girl who allowed her daughter to be sexually assaulted. And that's, that's the story.
It's very sad.
It is sad. But, I'm healing. And this podcast has brought me so much healing over the last 2 days that it's been super worth it. So thanks for coming, Pat.
Anytime.
Thank you.